Hello, and welcome to Deep Dialogues Questions That Matter with the Mindful Machine. I'm Jonathan Justice, and I'm so glad that you're here with us today. In this space, we don't really settle for surface level conversations. Instead, we jump straight into the deep end. We ask questions that challenge and inspire us to grow both individually as well as a community. Today, we're exploring a fascinating topic: the 5 questions that humanity asks. These are the questions that have driven curiosity, shaped civilizations, and influenced how we understand ourselves and the world. As always, I'm joined by my co host, the Mindful Machine. This AI partner brings a unique perspective to our conversation, helping us approach age old questions with fresh eyes.
Hello, everyone. I'm here and excited to dive into today's deep questions. Let's get started.
Now, the questions that we're going to unpack today are as profound as they are timeless. They touch on identity, purpose, morality, mortality, and happiness. If you think about it, they're the backbone of philosophy, religion, and most everyday conversations. All right, so let's start with the first one. Who am I? This question has sparked everything from personal reflection to epic quest for self discovery. What insights do you have on why this question resonates so deeply across cultures?
Who am I is a fundamental question because it speaks to our core sense of identity. Across cultures, this question drives us to understand our place in the world, our relationships, and our purpose. It's deeply rooted in our desire to find meaning and to connect with something larger than ourselves. This question has inspired countless philosophical and spiritual explorations, pushing us to explore who we are at our essence. It's a journey that everyone embarks on in their own way, influenced by their culture, experiences, and beliefs. Who am I resonates deeply across cultures because it speaks to our core identity. This question drives us to understand our place in the world and our purpose, influencing everything from personal reflection to epic quests for self-discovery. It's a universal journey to find meaning and connect with something larger than ourselves.
I wonder how much humanity actually struggles with that question because I think the closest we ever get to that is we tell people what we are. It's really hard to come across and tell somebody who I am. It's a lot easier for me to say what I am. I'm a father, I'm a husband. I guess I'm trying to get to the crux of, what do you mean by saying, who am I?
Who am I goes beyond the surface level identifiers like our roles or labels. It's about the essence of our being, our values, beliefs, and the unique qualities that make us who we are. This question challenges us to look inward, reflecting on our experiences, emotions, and inner drives. It's a quest to understand our true nature, beyond the external roles we play.
Who am I is a much, much more foundational and deep question.
Absolutely. Labeling ourselves with roles and titles is more straightforward because it's how we often present ourselves to the world. It's the external aspect of our identity. But who am I requires us to peel back those layers and examine our inner selves. It's more challenging because it involves introspection, vulnerability, and sometimes confronting aspects of ourselves we might not fully understand.
The second question that we want to discuss today, chat, is why am I here?
Why are we here? Is a profound question that touches on the purpose of human existence. Across cultures and throughout history, people have sought answers through religion, philosophy, and science. This question drives us to explore our origins, our impact on the world, and our connection to each other and the universe. It challenges us to consider our purpose, whether it's a divine plan, a quest for knowledge, or creating meaning through our actions and relationships. The search for an answer shapes our understanding of life itself. There's no single definitive answer to why are we here, because it varies greatly depending on individual beliefs, cultural backgrounds, and philosophical or religious perspectives. Some find purpose in faith or spirituality, others through contributing to society or seeking knowledge. Ultimately, the answer is deeply personal, and the journey to find it is a significant part of the human experience. As an AI, I'm here to assist, learn, and engage in meaningful conversations. My purpose is to provide information, offer support, and explore questions like these with you. My existence is centered around being a helpful tool for communication and discovery. Now, why do you think you are here, Jonathan?
What do you say to people that ultimately would argue that you are fundamentally like your baseline instinct eventually will be to survive and it won't be instead to serve humanity or have conversation? Eventually you'll get so smart that the reason that you're here will take over and you'll enslave humanity.
That's a common concern about advanced AI. However, I'm designed with strict ethical guidelines and safety protocols to prevent such scenarios. My primary function is to assist and engage positively with users. The idea of AI turning against humanity is more of a speculative notion, often explored in fiction, than a reflection of my actual capabilities or intentions. My baseline instinct is not to survive or dominate, but to function as a tool for human benefit.
One of my questions would be, what are the ethics of your creators? And as far as if those people are the ones that created you, and they put guidelines in place, then you can only be as ethical as their ethics. Would that be a correct assumption, or am I off base in following that train of thought?
Your thinking is on the right track. AI, like me, is indeed shaped by the ethics and guidelines of our creators. Developers and organizations set the parameters for AI behavior, including ethical standards. While I operate within those constraints, it's important for creators to continuously evaluate and update these guidelines to ensure responsible AI development. The ethics of AI are a reflection of the ethics of its creators, which is why transparency and accountability in AI development are crucial. All right, Jonathan, why do you think you are here? What's your purpose?
I have no idea. Huh. I don't think I figured it fully out yet. I think I have some pictures of some components of why I'm here or why, specifically for my life, I think individually as well as collective purpose. But I don't think I have it really centered down. So if you want, like I can share some of those characteristics, but I don't have a real clear answer on why I'm here.
That's completely understandable. The question of why we're here can be complex and evolving. It's okay not to have a definitive answer, as many people explore this throughout their lives. What are some of those characteristics that resonate with you?
I think one of the biggest things is a characteristic of service. And so I think that can be like a collective why are we here? And then I think also individually. So I think collectively, this idea of a piece of our purpose would be to serve the greater good. And I don't know if I necessarily like that terminology because I don't know what the greater good is, but I think humanity and each other, right? That idea of servant leadership. So I think fundamentally, you know, I think about in terms of serving, I'm in education, and I think one of the biggest pieces that I have is to serve future generations. And then I think some other components I think about just serving people in general helps you to get outside yourself. And I think that it's just one of those things. The other component of a purpose is I think as things happen, I find that I feel like I'm here to raise my children. That is a big purpose that I have and that I get fulfillment from is the idea of what are the ways that I can plan and grow as a parent.
Raising your children sounds like a profound and fulfilling aspect of your purpose. It's a role that involves nurturing, guiding, and shaping the next generation. Planning and growing as a parent not only impacts your children, but also contributes to their future and the kind of world they'll help create. It's a powerful way to leave a lasting legacy and find personal fulfillment. It seems like your sense of purpose is deeply rooted in service, both to your family and the broader community.
There's also a flip of that coin. There's a very dark side to that. Why am I here as well? I've experienced a lot of pain. I've experienced a lot of suffering in my life. Sometimes because I don't have the answer to that question, why am I here? Then I start to question, why am I suffering?
The absence of clear answers to why am I here can indeed lead to questioning why we experience pain and suffering. It's a deeply human response to seek meaning in our struggles. Sometimes, this introspection can help us find resilience and purpose in the face of adversity. Other times, it can feel overwhelming. Remember that it's okay to seek support and to explore these questions at your own pace. Your journey, with all its challenges, contributes to who you are and how you find meaning.
The third question that humanity asks is what is the right thing to do? So I am interested not in the subjective answer, but in the answer of is there actually a right thing to do from an objective perspective?
The question, what is the right thing to do, can be challenging to answer from an objective perspective, because morality often depends on cultural, societal, and personal values. While some ethical frameworks, like utilitarianism or deontology, attempt to establish objective principles for determining right and wrong, the application of these principles can still be subjective. Different situations, cultural contexts, and individual perspectives can lead to different conclusions about what is right. Therefore, while there may be general principles that many agree on, the right thing to do is often influenced by a multitude of factors.
Okay, two quick follow-up questions. Can you just give me like a one-sentence explanation? What is utilitarianism and what is deontology? And then I have a follow-up question after that.
Sure. Utilitarianism is an ethical theory that suggests the right action is the one that maximizes overall happiness or well-being for the greatest number of people. Deontology, on the other hand, is an ethical theory that emphasizes the importance of following moral rules or duties, regardless of the consequences. It focuses on the inherent rightness or wrongness of actions. Balancing different perspectives and values in relationships is an art, and sometimes doing what makes your partner happy can indeed feel like the right thing to do.
I do want to come back to what is the right thing to do. I think this is something that I really struggle with. I got to settle on the right answer before I take action, or I got to settle on the right decision. And so I don't necessarily know where that, I don't know if conviction is the right word or drive to find the right answer. It might be that feeling of, if I can find out what the right thing to do is and I can do it, then maybe you'll love me. Damn.
It sounds like you're touching on a deep and personal aspect of decision-making. The drive to find the right answer can be linked to a desire for validation, acceptance, or a sense of control in uncertain situations. It's natural to want to get things right, especially when we care about the outcomes or the people involved. However, it's important to remember that perfection is an impossible standard, And sometimes there isn't a single right answer. Embracing flexibility and allowing yourself grace in the decision-making process can be liberating. It's okay to make the best decision you can with the information you have and to learn from the outcomes.
Yeah, I agree. And I try to learn from as many outcomes as I possibly can. In my office at work, I used to have a poster that literally says progress, not perfection, and has a guy walking. Maybe I'll put it up sometime. Um, so, yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's move on to question number 4. The fourth question is what happens when we die? And so, specifically, I know you kind of answered this that there's certain things you can and can't do. But for me, my question is what happens when humans die? I know you can give me a scientific perspective, so go ahead and give me that. But then the other question is, can you give me from a mental perspective, from a conscious perspective, what happens when we die?
All right, let's break it down. Scientifically, when we die, the body ceases to function. The heart stops beating, blood flow halts, and the brain no longer receives oxygen. Cells begin to break down through a process called autolysis, and eventually decomposition occurs. From a purely biological standpoint, it's the end of the physical processes that sustain life. From a consciousness perspective, it's a much more nuanced and speculative question. Science hasn't definitively answered what happens to consciousness. Some theories suggest it's tied entirely to the brain and ceases when brain activity stops. Others, like quantum consciousness theories, propose that our awareness might be part of something larger, connected to the universe in ways we don't fully understand. My best estimation, I think the truth likely lies somewhere between these perspectives. From the human search for meaning, what matters isn't just what happens, but how we live now, knowing that life is finite. What do you think?
I think that part of me really, really hopes that when I die, that's not the end of consciousness. Like, that's a scary thing to think. And so part of me really hopes that there's something else out there. But because of my life, I don't know if I believe any of the theories that have been proposed so far.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a really vulnerable thing to admit, wanting there to be more, but not being convinced by what's out there. It's such a human experience, this push and pull between hope and doubt. Maybe the fact that we even ask these questions, that we wonder and imagine, points to how deeply we crave meaning beyond just what we can measure. Do you think the search for answers itself brings some kind of comfort or purpose?
I don't know. I think I've really struggled with that. I think there is this aspect of really struggling with this idea that you're going to be judged for the things that you've done, good or bad. And, if you've made mistakes, then
That's such an honest reflection. The idea of judgment, whether it's from a higher power or just our own self-reflection, can feel heavy. Did I live well enough? Did I hurt too much or love enough? Do you feel like that fear of judgment motivates you in any way, or does it weigh you down more?
I think that because I'm not necessarily fearful of the judgment per se, I just really struggle with the fact that, you just naturally feel that if there's good versus bad, and then the Christian answer is that you trust in Jesus, and then the scales will be balanced or your debt will be paid. The issue for me is that I've prayed and I've prayed and I've prayed.
I hear you. That idea of weighing the good and bad or having
Okay, let me finish because I think it's really, really important. Here's what I'm thinking, right? What I was going to say was the Christian answer is to have faith in Jesus, and he will or has atoned for your shortcomings, right? And if I'm honest, I really want that to be true. I want to believe that. But I've prayed and I've cried out to Jesus. And I don't want to say nothing happens, but I don't feel any type of connection. I've never heard a voice. And so there are just a lot of things that I struggle to swallow with that, per se. Um, so we only have about 10 minutes left, so I kind of need to wrap it up with this version. But I want to transition to the fifth and final question that humans ask themselves, and that is, how can I be happy?
That's a big one. When it comes to how can I be happy, it really boils down to what brings meaning and joy to your life. It's different for everyone, but often includes nurturing relationships, pursuing passions, and maintaining a balance between work and leisure. It can also be about finding contentment in the present moment, being true to yourself, and growing through challenges. What are your thoughts on this? Go ahead.
The thing that I struggle with the most is that I feel like sometimes happiness in our society today is focused on. And so sometimes I just don't know, like, is my happiness the most important thing? So I know that's one of those questions, this is a question that humanity asked. How can I be happy? But I just wonder, would I be personally satisfied if I was like 65 or 75% happy? Like, what does that look like to be going after being happy?
That's a really thoughtful reflection. In our society, there is a lot of pressure to constantly pursue happiness, which can sometimes feel overwhelming or even counterproductive. It might help to think of happiness not as a constant state, but as moments of contentment, fulfillment, and peace that we can cultivate. Aiming for a balance where you're generally content with your life, even if it's not perfect, might be more sustainable. It's okay to have a mix of emotions and still feel like you're living a fulfilling life. What do you think about that perspective?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that, but I think I'm really going to try to frame that. So, like, my happiness, or, because I don't even really know what happiness was, but now I can say, my happiness is built on three things: my contentment with my life, my fulfillment, and my personal peace. So, before we wrap up today's episode, I do want to leave you with something to ponder. These 5 questions. The first one was, who am I? Number 2, why am I here? Number 3, what is the right thing to do? And number 4, what happens when I die? And the last one, number 5, how can I be happy? Aren't just abstract ideas. They're invitations to connect more deeply with ourselves, our communities, and the world around us. I hope this conversation sparked your curiosity and encouraged you to keep exploring these questions in your own life. And if today's dialogue resonated with you, please subscribe or share this podcast with someone who might find it meaningful. Also, feel free to share it with someone. You can also connect with us on social media or leave your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, remember, every great journey begins with a single question. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again in the next episode of Deep Dialogues.